Okay, here we go again. Look, I'm really happy. I know I don't come across as happy very often. I don't have much good to say many times, but I'm really pretty happy with some decisions I made. I made a decision early, well, not that early in life, but kind of late, to get on the right track. And I went and I had a mentor. I found a fellow who had a similar ailment to what ailed me. And I decided I wanted to work with him, even though he was the head of the organization, and nobody could get through to him very easily. They reserved him. But when I asked, they granted me the services, and I was just so happy because it changed life completely for me. At that point, I was trying to decide what to do with myself. I was a musician, starving, not doing very well, and as a matter of fact, my diet actually led to a health problem, a serious health problem. And it took me decades to work my way out of it. I had a good mentor, and I had a few mentors along the way, and I learned everything I could from every one of them, and I did my best to become as good as they were, if not better. And sadly, I had a real rough plate of shit that I had to turn into blessings for myself. So whenever I get a client comes in with a real messy, shitty ass plate, I get across to them a couple of things. First, it's not their fault. They're not to blame. You leave my shoe alone. She wants to go out. Good girl, come here. Yeah, she's so sensitive. Yes, oh yes. You're rocking the boat. You're rocking the I know you're cold in the nose. She's such a good girl. Anyway, the decision I had to make was, did I want to go teach at high school level, or did I wanted to become an academic advisor at a college? I thought master's level academic advisor, that's not that. I loved the college campus. We talked freely back then. It was completely different. And we actually debated with each other openly, and so openly we often found ourselves changing our positions to our opponent's position. We changed places a few times in this dance, if you will. And we rarely solved the problems of the world, but we walked off with greater understanding and respect. It was refreshing. I loved it. I think we had to pull all funding on the universities. They don't do a good job. They didn't do a very good job when I went through it to begin with, but they do an even worse job today. They've undermined our country. So I'm sitting in a good place because I took the hard roads. I took the roughest stuff possible. English was my worst subject. What did I do? I majored in it. Did I do well? I did okay, but I have to be honest with you. I don't think I entered college really knowing how to read. Not very well. And I certainly couldn't write worth a damn. I write pretty good these days. I know the word as well, but so what? It's artistic license. You understand the rules, it's okay to break them. And I like speaking the vernacular anyway. But the only decision that I made that was the toughest one was staying in touch with my family of origin. I had separated from them, and I had to. My parents undermined me every step of the way. They thought so poorly of me that I didn't need any enemies. My family was there to yank the rug out for me every step of the way. And my mother identified me as the patient. And the rest of the family realized, hey, as long as she's got him to beat up on, she leaves the rest of us alone. So they were happy. And they also tossed in on me as well. I found myself and my family in my textbooks. I saved the book. I don't know which book it's in. It could be in the personality disorders book, or it could be in family systems, or in something else. But I found myself in the family in the textbooks, and I was like, whoa. And I read enough, reading family systems in particular, Because what I did is people that I ran into recommended I read different books. I'd go buy the books now. I'd get into them. So I read the classics. I didn't read everything I wanted to, but I would have as many as 14 books going and periodicals at one time. I counted them once when I was in my internship in Mississippi. And I had 14 different books going at one doggone time. Yes, I had a very powerful brain. It took a lot to keep me entertained, I guess. But the key decision I had to make was for health. And from what I could tell, the people that were in my position who separated from their families had worse outcomes. Much worse. The worst outcomes possible. And my parents at one point in time, and I stopped talking to them for about 1.5 years when I was in internship in Mississippi. I needed the break. I had just had a third job screw up, actually, now I think about it. And this time it was because I had to report the boss's nephew for child sex abuse. And the kid was in a sensitive position, and the little girl was like 13 or 14 years old, and her mother was the village sex slave. And her mother contacted me because she didn't want this happening to her daughter. So I ended up intervening. And I also had a village counselor counterpart who didn't like me, didn't want to work with me, wanted to work with Chuck, the old man. She loved him. She wanted to work with him. So she set me up to get rid of me. She was smart. She was shrewd. Don't kid yourself. May not be as educated, may not have the same language skills, but shrewd and smart. And my brother is shrewd and smart as well. He set my ass up. But that's okay. It's not exactly over yet. I'm pretty sure I get to outlive him. Anyway, my decision was for health. And those who stayed away from their families and detached from their families ended up reliving the family dynamics. And I'll be damned if I was going to do that to other people. I was not going to treat other people the way I had been treated. No way in hell you could get me to do what my mother and my sister did to me. And my father pretty much ignored the situation. And I think I might have talked to him once a week. It was like he wasn't there. So, what did I do? I'm faced reading this. And at about the same time, or shortly thereafter, my mother was so thankful because a lot of her friends, their children wouldn't even talk to them anymore. They wouldn't have anything to do with them. They had grown up, individuated, separated, and were leading healthier lives. In my case, I was pretty well broken up and busted up, and I was identified. I was marked. I was the whipping boy. And things did not go very well, not at all for me. I sat with my books. I helped a lot of other people. And never in my wildest dreams did I think that by helping others, I was going to get a gift. And the gift I got was actually healing. I mean, all the way through. Not just managing, but actually good health. Well, please don't get me wrong. I still have some issues at times. I'm older. I'm alone. I don't like the course of life I've had. I do get upset at my family pretty often, so I carry that with me. I'd love to be able to say I shook it all loose and it doesn't bother me one bit, but it does. It does to this day. But as a result, I had marvelous insights. And the position I was put in was for discovery. And so I discovered that the elites, especially the food processors, were poisoning our asses. So I'm bringing that to your attention today. The food supply has been poisoned. The water's been poisoned. It's been poisoned for a long time. And you may say, my God, the guy is a paranoid schizophrenic. Let's certify his ass and put him in a straitjacket, put him in a rubber padded cell. That wouldn't be nice. The fact is that they poison us slowly. And they ignore the real maladies. That's why they invented this specific health care. And I'm about to write several letters demanding a few $1 million from people. I hope I'm around long enough to actually bank it, because I'd like to buy myself another car. I'd like another really nice car. The last one I had sacrificed its life to defend mine. I'd like another car that's capable of that. I already know what I want. I already know if I had the money what I'd go buy. The problem is I can't afford to insure it, much less fill the gas tank up. It only runs on high octane. I realized that my relationship with my father was really bad. I mean, I had pain, severe emotional pain from the neglect and all of that. It was really bad. I would call up home, call up my parents on Sundays, was what we did because we had long distance rates back then. We didn't have cell phones. Anyway, I would call them up and talk with them, and my dad would answer the phone normally until he realized who it was he was talking to. When he realized he was talking to me, he got vile, abusive, and he went on in a tirade for quite a while. Now, sometimes I would try to defend myself. I learned it was a mistake. Forget about defending yourself. Not against the tirade of a madman who's just emotional, and that's all there is to it. And he wasn't going to be rational. He wasn't going to be realistic. He was not in touch with reality. He had no idea that he had communist leanings, and he was a military officer. I mean, he did not understand himself very well. Anyway, I learned that if I just waited and ignored his tirade, he'd start talking to me like a normal human being. And that was good. So I never did get things resolved with my father. He died disliking me. He died not even knowing it was me on the phone. He died thinking that I was his father one time. And other times he thought that I was his other son, doing miracles for him, intervening. I got my uncle, I got his brother on the phone right away. But my dad attributed that to my brother because I'm no good, I can't do any good, and all that. And of course, I became a psychologist. I let him down. I didn't become an attorney. He lied later, saying he never wanted me to be an attorney. He didn't like attorneys. Well, I know he didn't like attorneys, but he was really upset and didn't let me ever forget. He wanted me to. I should have gone to law school. I'm so glad I didn't. Anyway, I decided to build a relationship with my father. Took me 5 years. 5 years. 5 years of abuse on the telephone before he would actually treat me decently. And it really sucked pretty badly. I worked at it. I even bought books on fathering. I bought self-help books and I read those. And I actually had one of my clients who turned caustic on me, pointed at the books on my shelf and said, "Those are all you. It's all about you." I was like, "Oh yeah, she was right." But that was not her business, and that wasn't going to be helpful. That's not the way it was going to be in our relationship. That power differential suddenly shifted, and she's trying to shift it in her favor and force a relationship on me that would have been, in Mississippi, it would have been considered to have sex with your client, sex with your patient would have been definitely a felony. 5 years in prison, they wouldn't have hesitated to give it. And of course, it wouldn't have mattered how much she bounced across the room and enjoyed it and set it up and, bragged about it or whatever. Anyway, I don't like. So I decided to build this relationship with my parents and stick around with them. It was painful and it was difficult, but I realized I had to face my fears. Whatever I was afraid of, whatever caused anxiety, I had to face it. I learned early on what clean anxiety and dirty anxiety were. I was living most of my life with dirty anxiety, with anxiety, period, from the family. I didn't like eating at the dinner table. It was always abusive. Couldn't gain any weight, and they couldn't figure out why. It was because they were sons of a bitches to me. My father was too hard on my father, but was much harder on me. And at the end of her life, my mother actually said something wonderful to me. She said I was the nicest man she knew. I'm so glad she said that. I really needed to hear that after decades of abuse from her. She wasn't a stable woman. She wasn't in her right mind. It was kind of a Munchausen's by proxy kind of thing where she put her disabling crap on me, and the rest of the family was happy with that. So yes, I'm being psychologically naked right now. Psychological nudity is what Mr. Savage, Dr. Savage likes to call what he does. So I'm telling you right now, most of the mental illnesses have been caused in this country, and for the most part they're caused by poisoning in the food that's been processed. And what they like to use in particular is manganese and aluminum and cadmium, mercury. They like to use all of the metals, and they use tiny amounts so that you don't die outright from the metal toxicity and it get discovered. They can't have that. So they give you subtoxic clinical levels. And in my case, I had to live on Cheerios for a while. It turns out two bowls of Cheerios has enough manganese in it to make a full-size man, which is bigger than I am, sick, toxic. So that's how they've been causing most of the mental illnesses, is manganese in particular. Autistic spectral disorders, bipolar disorders, and schizophrenias. And also, they have programmed everything else into the society. So I want to get this across to you. They've used the Bible and taken all of the evil stuff they can mine from the Bible. Yeah, they're that way. And do not tell me Jesus can save anybody. No. These are people that were marked from before the time they were born for destruction. Like we were marked from before the time we were born for salvation. Those cats, when it comes to the great white throne judgment, they're the ones that get dissipated. And it does happen. Yeah, I do believe in salvation, but not the way you think of it. You think Jesus is supposed to show up just to save your particular ass. No, you're supposed to invite that Holy Spirit and do what the Holy Spirit tells you to do. He set the example. He only did what his Father told him to do. He didn't do anything outside of his Father's will. Do you understand that? And he said, whatever you pray in my name, yeah, okay, fine, that's in his name. But he never said he was the Savior. He pointed us to Yahweh as the Savior. So I know we can get into arguments and discussions and start more world wars over whatever eschatology, but that's not what we're here for. I want you to know that you're better off not buying the food in the grocery stores and sending it back, and you're better off taking the entire federal drug administration and arresting them all for their high treason, because they've sanctified all of this stuff. You need to take your medical boards and do the same thing with them as well. You need to go after big pharma. That's where the deepest pockets are, not in the banks, but in the big pharmacy companies. And believe me, I met the president of one of those big pharmaceutical companies, and he checked me out pretty good. I know when I'm being checked out, and I knew the guy was not a good dude. Oh, I admired his car collection. I didn't like the color of his Porsche. I thought it sucked, and he spent so stupid much money doing this metallic plum purple. I was like, got to be kidding me. Well, he's the only one with a 918, whatever the hell it is, that's painted like that, and it's worth more money now than when he bought it new. He had a whole bunch of Porsches. I doubt he's alive today. He's the president of SmithKline Beecham or whatever the hell. Eli Lilly, I think, became part of that. They were in Indiana as well. Look, these people have been busting our asses in the backgrounds. And so you wonder why you don't have any energy. You wonder why your health is bad. You wonder why you can't quite remember. It's because it's been engineered into society. And YouTube got pissed off at me when I said cancer was engineered into society. So I got to tell you right now where I got that from, because YouTube is going to get pissed off at me for saying this. I have a study. I don't know where it is. I don't know where it's handy at, but it's got to be on my computer somewhere. This study was published in about 2002. It was published by the head of the World Health Organization. YouTube, did you hear me? The head of the World Health Organization. It's his article. There were 5 authors in the article. And he, the MD in charge of medical services for your United Nations, which you founded on my frickin' birthday, and I'm going to tear that place down myself. I look forward to the day I can sell condominiums there in the old buildings there on Manhattan. That's what I want to do. Turn it into a museum, and I don't know. Maybe we should condemn it completely. I do want to see the stained glass windows, the architecture, because they got the United States held as a little tiny pigeon in the hands of a giant angel. That's right. They put their symbolism up there. They're going to take America down. You need to know who the bad guys are, and you need to go after them all at one time. And I'll be frank, the average man out there probably deserves killing at this point. We've all done stuff that merits that. We've all broken the 10 Commandments in ways that merits the death sentence. That's for sure. So what I'm getting at is your water supply, your air supply, and those pilots that are flying and know what the hell they're doing, they're getting paid big bucks, and their families' lives are held against them, and a lot of them don't have families. You need to take them out of the sky. The same with these the Doppler radar systems that are across the country. They use those to control the weather, and the same with the big array, the giant array in the interior of my state of Alaska, up near Gulkana. That needs to be locked down at least. The reason it's not the biggest array. There's bigger arrays in the world, but it's the most powerful one because it's got the most power. It's got a 4-foot natural gas line powering that bastard. So, just imagine. You want natural gas? All we got to do is take that 4-foot pipeline, and you can have natural gas in the States for cheap. You want oil? We got one oil in the North Slope that will fill up that pipeline for about forever. Literally forever, to be honest with you. Because it's not a fossil fuel in limited supply. It's a frickin' mineral that the Earth has to manufacture to protect itself so we can run and hang in space and have the electricity charges going like it has going. And we only need to re-drill one well up on the North Slope, build maybe 150 miles of pipeline in one summer. The Alaska pipeline will be filled at 100% of capacity. That'll bring down the cost of energy across the whole planet. And that's what we should do. But you need to know who the enemy is. The enemy worships Satan. The enemy comes from Cain. Cain, the murderer, the guy who murdered his half-brother Abel in the Bible. And you need to understand that some of these particular races that you and I come from, we're not very nice. And we need to take a closer look at them. We really do. Because I think that the Ashkenazi come down through these bad guys. And there's more than that that's bad. So you need to understand America has been destroyed. She has been conquered. I'm talking to you, and I know right now that a minimum of 15 million Americans are going to be dying here because of this coming difficulty we're going to be going through. Minimum 15 million. Probably a lot more than that. We could lose as much as half of our population. Why? Because the cities, hey, your city mayors want to be part of the 15-minute cities. That allows the bad guys to come in and start fires, flood them out, destroy property, get fire sales going so they can transfer the lands and the wealth. Yes, it's that evil. You don't have a government that you have any controls on at all. And those people you think represent you are just figureheads. They don't have any power. The only power they have is to indulge in things because they're protected bastards, spoiled snots that get away with murder. Nancy Jo Kapikni. Sorry, Mr. Kennedy, but your relative killed the girl, pregnant with his child, and got away with it. We have a mess. We have a really bad mess. And you need to understand, there is no rapture. There is the Last Supper, the final supper of the Lord. That is coming. All of the flesh of the generals and the kings and the queens, that's all fed to the birds, by the way. That's what's in the Bible. You ought to read the last verse of that chapter in Luke, where it says, because the apostles asked the master, hey, where are the bodies going to go? One's taken, one's left. Where are they going? And he said, where you find the vultures, the carrion eaters, there you'll find the bodies. And you need to move ahead a few chapters, a couple of books into Revelations to the great supper of the Lord. Then you will realize, yes, the bad ones are going to be gathered out. There's no reason to take the good ones out. What do I want you to do? I want you to not take any more of the bullshit poisons. I want you to identify what's really good for you and bad for you. I'm not going to call out what's good or bad for you because each of us is an individual, and for what may be poison for me may be a medicine for you. We just don't know. But I will tell you that the technology, understanding human physiology and how to heal and how to live a long life is far longer ahead than what you think. And they've made great progress, and they're denying the rest of us that treatment. It's very simple and very cheap to do. It's amazingly cheap. You just know what to do. No, I don't know it all. I don't know what to do. I'm working on my own health. I have my own problems. I'm working on things. I am feeling good. I'm feeling sharp. I'm feeling chipper. I ran a little bit yesterday. Yeah, imagine that. Look at this old son of a bitch. He went out and ran a little bit. I didn't run very much. It wasn't feeling good. Now, the day before, I ran much more, and it felt much better. I'm going to keep doing it. I'm not going to run much. I know that there's beautiful women out there who are runners, and I couldn't catch one to save my life. And it's kind of a funny deal that I'm that slow now, after I used to be a pretty good runner when I was younger. Anyway, the United States of America that you think exists does not exist. You're living in La La Land. This is about as close to hell as they can make it. They're actually trying to make this hell. They've taken away law enforcement and protections at this point, and they've given full license to women. Women can do whatever crimes they want to a man. Now, I'll be honest with you. You're not going to get away with defending your life against these women because the judges and police have empowered them to the point where they're almost invincible. But what you can do, and what I recommend, is you stay away from them. You isolate from them. Do not give a woman your friendship unless she earns it. Don't give her any attention unless you're really sitting on top of things. Do not bail them out. Do not help them. Do not rescue them. They wanted the world this way. Let them have it. Let them defend themselves. They opened the nation up to all of these invaders because it feels good. And we have to bring the outside people in because that's the Christian thing to do. They're dumbasses. Eve took us all down in the garden. And I need to point out to you, because you need to remember this. Eve was seduced, or maybe she did the seducing, of that fallen leader of the angels, on Mount Hermon, Gadriel, one of the 6 leaders of the fallen angels. I'm guessing there were 200 fallen angels, by the way. She became pregnant with his child. She gave birth to Cain. And then the next thing we know, she's lying to Adam about this being his child. So I'm telling you right now, Paternity fraud started in the garden with Eve. She committed paternity fraud. I think the law of the land should be simple. We're going to do paternity tests on you. If we find out you're doing paternity fraud, it's a year required minimum in the penitentiary. Easily. We need to put women in their place. They need to know they're not the most powerful. They need to know they can't get away with abusing men. They need to know that they're not going to have the right to vote when men don't even have the right to vote. You got to remember that. There's no right to vote in the Constitution. Voting was up to the states, and that's where it's going to go back to. So I'm sitting here feeling real good because I think we're going to get America back. Either that or we're going to die trying. And they're going to do their best to kill us. They're trying to get us nuked right now. We need to take this administration out of office fast. And you need to understand there's an organization behind there that claims they're there for the contiguity of government during transitions. They're the bad guys. They're not the good guys. They're the ones that have been doing this shit against us because they have no accountability. They'll kill people all the time. There was a psychologist, turns out he's actually a psychiatrist, named Jolly. That's all I could remember was the name Jolly because that's what everybody called him. That's what his nickname was. Turns out he was the psychiatrist that programmed up all these killers and did the cleanup on the MK program, which goes on to this very day. Don't kid yourself. The benefits from killing your adversary are too great, too tempting for them to give up. So that was an MK assassination that we have on video there in New York on the CEO. I haven't confirmed the death yet. I put a phone call in to a dear friend. I think I've lost touch with him though. But he would be able to inform me as to whether or not the death really occurred. Do not believe anything. Don't take it at face value just because the news tells you. The news are a bunch of liars. You should go after the news people, the broadcasters, the CIA Mockingbird people. You should dig some of them up in their graves like Walter Cronkite. He needs to be lauded across the whole land as the enemy he really was. It's a hell of a cleanup job. There's going to be a lot of work for youngsters. But we need to get rid of the state organizations, this massive state government that has a stranglehold on all of us. We need to just make it go away. We don't have any open and free markets. These guys have been trucking commodities across the country for the highest price under orders, and they add the cost of transportation to bolster the prices up to screw us all up. You want to buy property, and they tax it, and they'll steal it from you that way. That's not what we were designed to do. My family, the Kents, brought you a particular tradition here in the New World. And I know you don't know anything about my family, and most of my family members don't know anything about it either. I try to tell them about things that they don't want to listen to me. They're too busy reading their comic books about heroines, females, 90-pound women kicking the men's asses and stuff. They're not in touch with reality at all. They don't have the right value system. Not at all. Sad to say, it's members of my own family, communists. That's the way it is. So what do I want you to do? I want you to stop buying any of the cereals that they make and offer. I know it's going to cost me more, but the only safe thing to eat are the eggs. And they've even figured out how to put diseases into the eggs. So you got to be careful about that too. And they're busy running around talking about bird flu, which is a hoax. But they're actually doing the biological warfare to create it and try to make it take off. Just like that common cold. It was biological warfare my entire life. These bastards, these families have been working as units together for centuries. Not decades, centuries. They planned America and how America was going to be used in this, including our military might. You need to understand that your army Your military is not going to save you. You save yourself. How do you do that? You buy one of my Bibles, preferably. You pick up a Bible and you read it and you get to know it. You pray to Yahweh God to lead you. You pray for the Spirit, the Holy Comforter, to protect you. And you got to get your values right. You got to get your behavior right. You got to stop doing the poisons. Stop following their bad advice. The food pyramid is nothing but a quick way to the grave. They have poisoned us purposely. The poisons existed before the supposed antidotes existed. And the antidotes are just another level of poisons to make you even worse. The young lady I helped the other day, her brother's schizophrenic, and he's on that medicine that when you withdraw from it, you end up becoming violent. Seroquel. And he's on another modern medicine, expensive as hell, the Cadillac for schizophrenics. It's another poison. And it will kill him. It's shortening his life. But these people are so far gone and so dangerous to the rest of us that sometimes we need them chemically straitjacketed so that they don't assault the rest of us. Those people put on Seroquel or put on that for a reason. It's because they're dangerous. Somebody thinks they're dangerous. And somebody wants to hobble them so that they won't be assaultive. And I know once a man starts on that, he's really got to stay on it. It's kind of a life sentence. It's not fixing any chemical imbalances. All those medicines do is cause chemical imbalances. The cause of my mental distress was my family. My secondary cause was the poison. It happened to have been manganese. Yes, manganese spiking in the Cheerios that I was eating, made by General Mills. And General Mills refused to put the amount of manganese, disclose the amount of manganese on the box, and the FDA accepted that. First time in history, the FDA allowed a manufacturer to fail and refuse to disclose an ingredient and the amount of an ingredient. You need to understand. I hope you'll understand now. Now, if you want to get rid of manganese, you're going to have to do some fasting, and you're going to have to use some substances and go through some detoxes, which are in themselves a bit dangerous. And your organs are going to be getting hit kind of hard. But you're better off clearing yourself out and clearing yourself up. Believe me, life is much better on this side than on the other side of the damn desk. You know, I helped a lot of people. I built up one heck of a bank account in heaven. I'll put it that way. I've helped a lot of people. I haven't helped enough. That's why I'm making this video. If you really want my services and want a consult, I have to charge you for it. Otherwise, you won't value it. And then you'll take advantage of me. I did that with a woman a while back. And she wasn't, I finally had to tell her not to call me anymore. Women take advantage of everybody at this point, and we need to walk off from them. A woman needs to really respect a man and demonstrate respect. If she will not respect you, get the hell away from her. If she will not respect you, have nothing to do with her. I mean, you're the guy who should be defending her, but if I was you, I'd make it real clear. I don't want anything to do with you. I'm not defending your ass. You are on your own. You asked for it, baby. You made your bed. And these women, the problem they all have is they think they're going to be beautiful forever, and they're going to be desirable and sexy forever, and they're going to be able to dominate a man because she's so beautiful. That goes away. And when it goes away, it's a tough wake-up call. So to the ladies out there, I'm warning you. Bond up as best you can. You're not made the same as we are. You're not made for the same bullshit we're made for. You're not made to take the risks that we take. You're not made to do the stuff we do. And there's things that you can accomplish and do that we can't handle. We weren't made for. We need you too. But until you respect us, and I mean not just the one man you're paired up with, but you got to respect his friends. You've got to show respect to all the men. Because, and you've got to, you don't have to do anything, but you can get tossed out of the streets. And believe me, there's going to be a lot of bad stuff on those streets. America will be isolated in short order. There are going to be incredible shortages and all kinds of poisonings going on. So, I mean, the least we're going to lose is 15 million people. And I would say we could lose we could lose 170 million people. And if we have the way of our CIA and their, what was that website called? Deagle. Deagle had us down to 69 million people from 335 million. And then they went off the air for a while. They took the site down. When they put it back up, they said that they were only going to reduce us down to 99 million instead of 69 million. They want to kill you and me. They want to kill us. Do not. And I'm posting this up to save lives. I'm making this public to save your life and preserve your life and to help you to get through this rough period. You've got so much that you're facing, it's really overwhelming. So you youngsters out there have got a lot that's coming down your way. I mean, you have Yahweh to deal with, as well as the devil and the devil's children, who are given, they're running the world right now. They own everything through their Federal Reserve System and their phony money system. And you want to give it to them through the Bitcoin. Stop being deceived. Stand your ground. Yahweh's message deserves repeating. Don't be deceived. Stand your ground. Defend yourself.